Loading. Okay. Oh, pause. Go. Okay.
Cool. So 1, 2, 3, play. So let me know if you hit an ad so I can pause it.
I mean, I shouldn't, but we'll see.
Yep.
Well, I hope you had a great day yesterday. And by the way, there's a perfect run through that Rich did immediately after the show. He went back to the office, ran it through, no crashes, no nothing. It's up on YouTube. And by the way, that's a dedication of Rich. Is like, okay, I'm going to get it done properly, and he did it, and it looks great, and it doesn't have any screen tearing, because there was some screen tearing. There was a technical glitch in the setup yesterday. So anyway, watch that. And if you're doing comparisons to the old stuff, compare with that video, not from the stream. But anyway, I hope you guys liked this morning. There was the base building, the crafting, and the ships, you'll be able to do it. I mean, for me, the ability to sort of create your own place somewhere in the verse, find the perfect spot for you to make your home or harvest resources, it totally changes the dynamic of what the game will be in terms of exploration and people spreading out, and I think putting roots down in the verse. So I can't wait till we get that in there. I mean, that's one of the things that makes me incredibly excited, because I think it will just add so much to a living, breathing universe. But that is a perfect example of
So what are you at right now?
Star
Just so I know
Citizen,
we're on the same
how
video.
it's grown over the last 12 years, because we definitely did not have that on the initial Kickstarter or the pitches that we were doing. And, you know, Star Citizen is a living game. I mean, we're constantly always adding content and features and tech. As you can see, we're constantly upgrading, you know, what we're doing on the graphics side, making it better and always improving it. And even after we would consider it a released or a shipped game, not an alpha game, we will still be doing that. So it's just, it will be a living game. We'll never do Star Citizen 2.0. It will always be sort of Star Citizen that will continue to grow. It won't be like, oh, we're going to do Destiny 2 after Destiny 1. It will just be a living, growing product. Same for. Well, I don't mean that as a knock at them. I just mean that in today's world, you constantly upgrade and improve things. But the big question really is, at what point would we at CIG, what point would I, what point would the rest of the team consider Star Citizen ready for everybody? Not just you guys out here who are beautiful, wonderful, early adopters, willing to put up with bugs, jankiness, you know, not a great new player experience. We know all those things are things that we
just obviously
want to
introducing
fix and
everything.
improve. And we want
This
to
is
that
Chris
everyone
Roberts.
can just
He's
get
the
into
one
at the
that did
beginning,
Wing
understand
Commander,
it, have fun,
Privateer.
you know, pulls you into it, and then has a huge amount of depth. So the question is, what is that?
I mean, I like how he's pretty much straightforward about the fact that, you know,
it's something that we've
this is janky right now, but we're trying to get it to the point where it's not.
X number of years, and now we thought, you know what we should do, because I think half our sort of initial stuff is from a long time ago that you've seen, and then occasionally we'll talk about things we're doing in, you know, Inside Star Citizens or SE Lives, but we're like, okay, let's tell everyone the marker. This is what it is, Star Citizen 1.0. When we hit this, this is what we consider we're ready to go wide. You know, everybody in the world can get in, play it, whether you're hardcore or casual, have fun, play in the verse, interact, have a great time. And so that is what we're going to tell you today, is what we consider Star Citizen 1.0. That doesn't mean, as I said, that we'll stop at that point. We'll continue to grow and build and add things.
Got to get that fishing in there.
Fishing is not on Star Citizen 1.0's list, but I'm pretty sure, I know, but I'm pretty sure it will be not that long after 1.0. But that is the example. We're going to tell you what the marker is, and you know, to do that, Rich Tyra, who's our senior game director, is going to come out with a few of our other directors, and we'll lead you through what 1.0 will be. So without further ado, Rich Tyra. All right, Rich. Don't crash.
Yeah.
He was the one that was running
CitizenCon.
Squadron 42 the day before, and it crashed like three times
my name
while
is
he
Rich
was trying to
Tyra,
play it.
and I'm the Senior Game Director for Star Citizen
During
and Squadron 42.
cutscenes, it crashed.
Now, I've been at Cloud Imperium for many years.
It was something wrong with
and
the
I've read
the
many,
PC
many
they were
Spectrum
using,
and
apparently.
Reddit posts. And one consistent question I always see is, what type of game is Star Citizen? And I've read many, many answers. It's a PvE game. It's a PvP game. What about non-combat? Ultimately, it's all three. 3 types of players, 1 universe. So how do we connect those players to create a cohesive game, and not just a set of features bolted together? And it comes back to that elegant, simple question. What type of game is Star Citizen? Well, today, we're going to find out. OK, so before we get stuck into Star Citizen 1.0, I think I need to clarify a few things. Firstly, what about 4.0? Where does that fit in? Well, 4.0 is the patch that contains server meshing and pyro. And fundamentally, it's an alpha development patch, which means it's adding further tech, features, and content to our alpha version of the game.
That's the thing that's supposed to be out by the end of the year.
Today, though, is beyond 4.0, all the way
It
to
adds
1.0.
Pyro,
And the big difference
the new star system.
is that 1.0 is the full release of the game.
I mean, if they can do it, that'd be great.
OK, so what does that mean? How will it be different to a normal patch? Well, firstly, let's look at the 1. The 1 means we're committing to higher base performance and minimal bugs. No longer will we reference that the game is in development. This will be a fully released and polished experience. It means fully rounded gameplay loops, from new player experience to story missions and end-game content. And crucially, it means no more resets between patches. It's a true...
Yeah, currently, when a new patch comes out,
It's a
like
true
you lose all of your
persistent
healing, you lose
universe.
all your food, you lose all your
So
ammo.
if that's the 1,
and
what
sometimes
about the
you lose all of
.0?
your purchased ships
Well,
and
it's
armor
just
and
as
everything.
important. It means we're still
But that's an
committed to
extreme reset
continued
when they do
development,
that.
with new content and features being planned post 1.0. But those features will no longer be tier 0. We'll be committing to a higher benchmark of quality for each patch, and most importantly, it's a moment in time. If there is a content, feature, or star system that we've mentioned in the past that is not in 1.0, it just means it will come later. 1.0 is more than just a number change. It's the beginning of a new phase of development of the game. OK, so we know what the 1 is and the .0, but before we move on, I want to address one important point. And for this, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. Here we are, the Kickstarter. As a backer myself,
2012.
it brings back memories.
12
And
years.
it also reminds me we had a lot of stretch goals. And one of those goals was 100 star systems. But, and there is a but, the star systems of old are not the star systems of today. They were based on the privateer and freelancer model. They were unexplorable planets with an isolated and small landing zone and had automated landings. And we all know how that went.
Starfield
To
Dig.
give you an idea, Stanton had 4 points of interest,
Right.
and the entire 100 systems only had 90 POIs. Compare that to Stanton today, and we have 1,626 points of interest. And that is going to be dwarfed once we start using the Starchitect tool you saw yesterday.
So the Starchitect tool, I don't know if you got to see that, said that on one planet there would be over 6,000 points of interest.
So where does that leave us for 1.0?
Jesus, that's a
Well,
lot.
we will not
Yeah.
be launching with 100 star systems, because the game we have today was not just the game that was pitched back then.
Just one planet.
It's more rich. It's more diverse. And fundamentally, you'll be getting a whole lot more. And I mean a lot more. Okay, so now I've defined what 1.0 is.
50 times more content in a single planet. And there
Star Citizen, by its very nature, is a sandbox
4
MMO.
planets
Today,
with a bunch of moons
you as a player have to
that
find
all have
the fun.
points of interest on them.
You have to figure out what you can do and how to do it. If you want to be a hauler or salvager, you have to know those professions exist. You have to know what ships support that gameplay. And you have to rely on outside resources for help. As it is now, the game is not set up to help you.
They're not lying.
So we're going to add a soft framework, a nervous system, that connects all the professions, ships, and content together. And to do this, we're going to add a main story.
Which they technically did with Squadron 42, so they know how to tell a story with the framework that they have.
To help new and existing players, to help discover all the exciting features and content we have, to take them on a journey of discovery of what the game has to offer. This story will become the spine of the universe and help onboard players with understanding how to play the game and understand what's available to them. This story will also introduce each of our guilds and what professions we have to offer. Like the United Resource Workers, our core industrial guild, which supports 2 of our main professions, mining and salvaging. They also support many other features and professions, like repair technician, crafter, and builder. Guilds are hugely important in Star Citizen, and as you know by now, guilds are comprised of many factions. As you work for each of these factions, you will gain guild reputation. You can then use this reputation as a currency to purchase guild-affiliated rewards, like ships, blueprints, and items. And each guild will have a unique inventory of what they offer. Alongside economic growth, guild reputation will become a core progression of the game. And to talk more
for
about
the guild
guilds
thing,
and
I
our
hope
main
it doesn't
story,
become
I'd like to introduce David Haddock onto the stage, our very own narrative director.
Destiny's type guilds where it's like you have to do.
They detailed what all that means in yesterday's org stuff that they talked about. So that's one of the other ones we'll watch later. This seems like an interesting one to start you with.
1.0 is very exciting
because it'll define what they want it to be, and then you may be able to plug in pieces with the other ones that we watch. And go, oh, that's where that fits.
But we're looking to do that in several of ways. Now, Rich introduced the main story, so let's get into it. What exactly is that? First, it's a narrative experience. This will be a crafted story through the star systems and professions of the Star Citizen universe, taking players on an exciting adventure that will finally kick off the growing tension between Earth and Terra. Yeah. It will be NPC-driven.
So Terra is a planet that has,
will always be the place to go for
actually,
AAA
it's very similar
adventure.
to the Expanse.
We're bringing a lot of the techniques that we learned
where
from that
Terra
to
became
capture and build
like
a cast of dynamic characters, some of which may be familiar, for both this story
resource and everything like that. And now Terra feels like they should be the center
the main story
of the
is
universe.
Also designed to be sort of like
Earth
a tour bus
not
structure,
be center of the universe,
where you can hop on and hop off at any time you want to.
So there's sort of a lot of turmoil with that.
So if you want to log in day one and just go off and do your thing, you can do that. Or maybe you want to put the story on hold so you can go explore a new facet of gameplay that you just discovered. Go for it. The point is that you can complete it at your own pace. So that's the what. So why do you want to do this? What's the motivation to want to go on this ride? Like Rich said, for new players, it's a great way to ease into sort of the vast lore that we've been developing over 12 years. The gameplay, the locations that the game has to offer, and also give you a sense of upcoming stories that are about to come. But you've been playing Star Citizen for years. You probably know the lore better than me. So what's in it for you? Now, of course, we'll have rewards along the way as you complete missions and whatnot, but we're finally going to offer a big prize for completing the story. citizenship. So, many of you already know this, but for the uninitiated, in the UEE, there are citizens and there are civilians. Citizens are members of the population who have demonstrated a commitment to bettering the empire, and as such are given benefits that civilians just don't have. Now, what those differences have been debated in the community over years. 1.0, we're finally going to answer that debate. I won't get into the full list of benefits that we're going to offer, but can reveal that one of them will be around land ownership. Citizens will be able to purchase land anywhere in the UEE and enjoy the security that comes with it. But civilians will have a couple of restrictions as to which systems and which planets they can buy on.
They only get to buy the shitty
So that's
side.
the why. So where is this adventure
They
going to
live
take?
in the ghetto.
Well, 1.0 is going to include 5-star systems. This story is going to weave you through all of them, but where exactly are you going to
What
go?
that means, once again, will be shown when we
First,
watch the base
we've got
building
Stanton,
stuff.
which needs very little introduction. I'm sure you're all very intimately familiar with these 4 corporate-run worlds. But since I do lore, I figure I could take the next hour and just walk through each one of these.
Each worlds are owned by a corporation.
But I'm kidding. We've also got Pyro, Land of the Lawless. A volatile star at the center of the system is the perfect metaphor for the constant struggle between the gangs and survivors trying to hack out an existence here. If you saw Ian's location presentation yesterday, then you know that he reintroduced Nick's system. There's another unclaimed system that's currently home to the People's Alliance, a wannabe independent government formed during the Messer era, but now struggling with the burdens of governance, a growing outlaw presence, and a new threat on their doorstep from Vandal raids. Ian also made another big announcement of our 4th system, Castra. Situated along the former Perry Line, this was a key strategic system to launch an attack if the Cold War between the humans and the Xi'an ever escalated. So that's 4. Do you guys want to know 5?
I want to live on Terra, and specifically the planet Arrow.
The what?
Yeah.
On planet Arrow.
Oh.
We're finally doing it. Considered by many to be the new jewel of the Empire, Terra has been a shining star against the more imperialistic tendencies of Earth, even in the darkest days of the Messer regime. Now, many believe that Terra should be the new center of the UEE. I don't know how you all feel about that. Yeah, a lot of division. But that's our starting 5. Each system and each planet will be featuring the massive level of outposts, POIs, stations, biomes, and exploration options that we've been perfecting with Stanton and Pyro, and you've been seeing in some of the other presentations this weekend. But we're adding one more level. We're also going to be adding location stories. Now, these will be short, NPC-driven missions sprinkled across our landing zones and cities that will exist outside of the main story, but will help provide an additional bit of lore and character to the location that they take place in. So, that's our main story. Let's talk more about the guilds that Rich mentioned. First, a quick recap. Guilds act as a governing body for clusters of professions and factions with a reputation and progression system that will offer rewards the more you work for them. And I want to call out 2 things. One, I'm not going to have time to dive into all of the missions that you're going to see on this board, but just know that every mission type is either in the 1.0 roadmap or already in production. And second, we're also looking to move missions away from the Moby Glass whenever possible. Sure, it will always be an easy way for us to get additional game content
Star Citizen's Pip-Boy.
but we want you talking with people. So
That's what you have it on your wrist.
So
it's
to
a
aid
holographic
that-
Pip-Boy, basically.
we're going to be adding characters to represent the factions that you'll be working for that will
And
help
so far,
sell their
everything we
personality.
do has been
Now,
take a mission
some,
from the Pip-Boy.
They'll still interact with you via the written word, but some will call and check in on your performance. And others, you may have to meet in person from time to time. So, let's walk
Now,
through.
do the planets
Here we
that
have the
they were
first
talking
guild that
about
Rich showed,
have
United
moons that are
Resource
also
Work.
accessible?
Yes.
Whether you're eager to earn credits,
Completely accessible.
mining valuable resources from
Okay.
remote corners of the universe, sifting through detritus to try and salvage some valuable
and
components,
the gas giants usually,
or even just acting as a technician.
That have full atmospheres.
You'll find plenty to do with employers like Shubin
most
Interstellar,
of the moons
United
have
Wayfarers
of an
Club,
atmosphere,
and more.
Unless they're just a rocky
Next,
rock.
you have one of the oldest
just
unions
for mining
in the UEE, the Interstellar Transport Guild. This will be the go-to place for everybody looking to make their fortune hauling and trading.
Are collections
some of the factions that many of you already work for now, such as Ling Family Hauling, Redwind, and FTL.
You get credit with the guild as well.
And we're going to be adding something special for the daredevils out there, the Imperial Sports Federation.
I just love the racing stuff. Cargo Olympics.
So aside from the usual racetracks that are both legitimate and illegitimate, we're actually going to be leveraging some of our existing mechanics to build new sports and provide an outlet for all you Murray Cup enthusiasts, Cargo Olympians, and competitors to see just who's the best out there.
You can join the Olympic. You can do a sport which is mining.
For those who dream of exploring,
running.
I'm sure we have a couple here. We have the Academy of Sciences that was brought up yesterday in the social presentation, if you saw that. This is a science guild that will include factions like the Imperial Cartography Center, who will task you with a variety of missions to better understand our universe, such as sending you into a nebula to do deep scans, or finally seeing what's at the bottom of that planetary canyon. We're going to have a new faction called High Point Wilderness Specialists, who will offer missions associated with the various fauna that we're starting to get into the game, from population control missions to harvesting specific resources for research. Now, I don't know if we have some people who'd like to do combat, but our combat guilds were doing something a little different. Now, previous to this, these are all of our profession guilds. But for our combat guilds, they operate a little differently.
I like how the council, which if you think about it in other games, usually the good guys
once you pledge allegiance to one,
the criminals.
The other marks you as an enemy.
And then the mercenary guild, which you would think is being more along the lines of bad guys,
like
is
Security,
law and
Bounty Hunters
security.
Guild, and even some military contractors. So whether you're pulling together a team of specialists to go assault a ground base, hunting down an elusive criminal, or putting together a recon run to drum up some intel, mercenary guilds got you covered. On the flip side, we have the council. Now, this is a shadowy group comprised of representatives from various gangs, syndicates, and outlaws who mandate criminal activity throughout the verse.
Criminal overlord.
You'll be able to throw in with rough and tumble gangs like the Headhunters and the Dead Saints, or work your way up to join highline criminal syndicates like the Atonis or the Drop Kings. But remember, the underworld is a dangerous place run by greed and power. So mercenary guild reps might not be the only people you have to worry about, as the syndicates are always looking for loyal soldiers who will hurt their competition and tip the scales of power in their favor. So as you can see, there's going to be a universe of exciting storytelling opportunities for you to undertake in 1.0. But one more thing, we're also going to revitalize our social behaviors to make the populations not only feel more alive and reactive and off chairs, but better reflect the tone and flavor of the areas that they're inhabiting. We want to see the people of Loreville slowly trudging through the streets,
in a server,
overburdened
NPCs
by the ruthless contracts, just as much as we want to see the tourists of Orison gleefully moving from attraction to attraction.
You have 30 of them sitting on one or standing on one chair, just doing their animation.
This is what's going to make Star Citizen be the experience we set out to make. A diverse universe with a rich tapestry of stories, characters, and experiences.
This
for you to live
me
in.
Excited. Like
to talk more about how
there's
all this feeds back into player progression.
There's
I'm
a
going to turn it
lot
back over
there.
to Rich Tyler.
And I like the diversity of it. Like you've got a lot to choose from, not just like a small
Thanks, Dave.
thing where everybody's going to be.
So we have a main story to connect the universe.
Right.
You know.
We have all the guilds and their associated professions. And we have location stories to give the world depth and life. Crucially, though, we have a new core progression in the game, guild reputation. But what about our other core progression in the game? The economy. So, as we've discussed
before,
been
a real sticking point.
We'll be implementing a Star Sim-powered dynamic economy that will automatically adjust the in-game prices based on player activity.
Star Sim is simulating NPCs doing what the PCs do to kind of like balance everything out.
But for credits to actually matter, though, we need to have an economy where credits flow out as well as in. This means transactions such as repairing, refueling, and restocking need to have value. If everything is too cheap and the money coming into the economy is too great, we'll have massive inflation.
Prices are going up, folks.
And this is where taxes and insurance come in. Boo! We'll have two main taxes: inheritance tax as part of Death of a Spaceman, and security tax for your base that will cover the cost of planetary shield tech.
So if you're in a lawful
insurance,
area,
on the other hand, will be split between medical insurance, which covers your hospital imprints,
but you're not protected,
and probably the most important one of all, ship insurance. Now, as we have Death of a Spaceman, we also need Death of a Spaceship. Losing your ship should be significant. Right now, for example, over 90% of all claims in the verse are for ships that have not been destroyed. And this is where ship insurance and our new warranty mechanic.
And this is what we were discussing
First up, we'll have
a
three
bit in
tiers of
length
insurance.
yesterday about
With
the
level
whole
1
insurance
being chassis
and
insurance.
warranty.
right?
Level 2,
So the ship
chassis
insurance,
and
level
component
1
insurance.
is what the lifetime insurance.
And level 3, chassis,
one
component,
chassis
and
insurance.
decorations insurance.
So they would have to still upgrade.
Right, for 2 and 3 per trip.
Gotcha.
Like, or I guess you buy months of insurance at a time.
Now, insurance by itself will only pay out credits based on the wear and age of your ship. Insurance, I think you want to listen to this bit because it's important. Insurance with a warranty, though, will give you back a new ship, plus any other equipment or decorations based on the tier of insurance you have.
So what happens is if you have
Okay,
LTI,
so this is the
if
bit
you
you need to
upgrade
listen
it,
to.
you don't lose LTI.
All ships
It just
bought
when
on
your
the
other
pledge
ones
store
expire,
will
you go
come
back
with
to
a
level 1
permanent
insurance. You have to
warranty
rebuy the
and their
level 2 or
appropriate
level 3.
insurance.
Okay.
But they did clarify this. If your ship is not insured, even if you have LTI,
This means you
it
will
be
always
lost,
get your ships back
but there
if
will
they're
be a path
attributed to your
get it
account.
back that won't be having to
Other
build
ships,
it again.
on the other hand, will require
Like
a
you
transferable
won't
warranty,
lose it,
and these
but
are rare.
It'll be much tougher to get back.
You'll be able
if
to
you
earn
didn't
transferable
have
warranties in-game,
insurance on it when you used
such
it.
as by completing the main story, as an example, and
I
apply
like how
them
there's
to any of the ships you
transferable
own.
too.
Yeah. And
But
earnable.
there will be a cooldown
You can
for
Yeah, and
transferring
earnable.
it between
in-game.
ships, so choose wisely. Now, what about claim timers? It's another fun topic. And getting your ship back without a claim.
Yes,
Well,
you
we
can
want
build
claim
any
timers to be
ship in the game,
proportional
by
to
the
the
way.
crafting timers. This means
And
it's more beneficial
when we talked
for you to
about
go
when we watched
back
the,
and get your
the
original
crafting
ship.
one from earlier,
For
there
this,
are
we're going
5
to be
tiers of
introducing
ships,
a shuttle
and the
ship,
stuff I bought
just like a
with real
courtesy
money
car.
starts at tier 1, and I have to upgrade it in game to get it to be better.
Gotcha.
This is fun. The
You'll be
shuttle
able to
get your
claim
ship
the shuttle at no extra cost to most locations, and then fly it back to your original ship. Once back in your ship, the
I
shuttle
mean,
will
it's like a taxi
automatically
service.
return home.
Makes sense.
back. Well, except it's self-flying to get back home, which probably means it flies out of sight and disappears. I think it would be really
If
funny
your
though if
ship
there's like
has been
1,000 shuttles
legitimately
coming
lost,
back
though,
to the dock.
then you'll need to claim it back. And as we'll be increasing claim timers, this will mean some ships will take longer than others. With starter or small ships always being readily available,
Like it takes like a minute
and larger
for
capital-sized
small
ships
start ships to
taking a
come
long
back.
time. So it's always better
I mean,
to
that's
try
not
and
bad.
get your ship
Right.
back if possible.
And like my freelancer comes
Okay,
back
so we've talked about our two core
about
progressions.
7 minutes.
But what does
that's
that
gonna
mean
go up
to
like
you
20 or
as
30
a player?
minutes from the sound of it.
Well, firstly,
Okay.
it means we have a framework where we can start creating cyclical gameplay loops. But what are they? Let me show you. Okay, so right now in live, if you have a prospector, you probably enjoy mining. And the reward for mining is credits and the enjoyment of the activity. But in 1.0, you might be mining for a whole different reason. And this is where cyclical gameplay loops come in. Firstly, let's add all the manufacturers and ships in.
There's a lot.
I'll just give you a moment to take that in,
So
because there's
that
a
is
lot.
the manufacturer of the
I actually
ships.
had to ask them to take the variants out because it didn't fit on this slide.
And he just said it doesn't include any of the variants.
And let's zoom all the way into the prospector, a stalwart of the mining community. But let's say I really fancy
I have like
acquiring
half of
a
those ships
military
you just
Mark
showed
II
under
Hornet.
MISC.
Let's go on a
I'm a
simplified
MISC
journey
whore.
of how I could get one. Firstly, I know I won't be able to buy it, as it's a military ship, so I'm going to need to craft it. That means I will need the fabrication hangar blueprint. Luckily, I can earn it by doing mining missions to gain rep with the United Resource Workers, and I already have the perfect ship, my trusty prospector. With blueprint in hand and some excess credits, I can now purchase a small plot of land on Stanton and build my fabrication hangar. Step 1, complete. Now I need to grab the Mark II Hornet blueprint. For this, I need mercenary rep, and more importantly, a combat ship. With that in mind, I will do a few more mining contracts to earn enough credits to purchase a Mustang from the dealership. Now I can start doing combat pilot missions for the Mercenary Guild, so I can unlock the Mark II Hornet blueprint. Okay, step 2 of our simplified loop is complete. I have the Mark II blueprint, but I need the resources to craft it. So I come full circle back to my prospector, but this time I'm mining for resources instead. As you can see, this closes the loop. No longer am I mining just because I like it, and there's nothing wrong with that, but now I am mining for a purpose and for multiple reasons. For credits, for reputation, for resources, for blueprints, and ultimately as a stepping stone to crafting my own ships to enjoy other professions. And this is just one of many loops. This is the core of Star Citizen.
Yeah, I like how he puts it because, you know, mining for me would be fun, but I would get bored of it after a while if it was just to earn credits.
Right, and trust me,
But
a lot
since
of people have
they're-
gotten bored.
Yeah,
That's all
and
it's worth
so
right now.
yeah, so if there's something for me to actually work for that I want,
it's providing the
then, you know, I'm
for
still going to want to do it.
to
You know,
play
it's
the
going to
game.
give me
And
diversity in
That's
that.
the journey, though.
the blueprints he's
What about the
talking about
destination?
are account unlocks.
So Dave has
Like,
already
you
discussed
can't have them
citizenship
stolen from
and
you.
the
They're
main
not
story.
physicalized.
So let's collapse that
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah, I remember you
Let's
mentioning
talk
that.
about endgame
But I'm
content.
not sure if they're
The
transferable.
content that is designed for experienced players and keeps them engaged.
Or if you have to
basically
read
everything.
them
being-
first to add them to your account. Otherwise, you can sell them or something like that.
So how does that look?
Yeah, I was about to say,
Firstly,
are you allowed
we'll
to
have
sell the
open world
blueprints?
content,
Are you allowed to,
including
you know,
missions, group
trade
missions, and
them?
server-wide
There's
events,
some
like we have
clarification
today,
that needs
but
to
tailored
happen.
to end-game players. While the sandbox element of Star Citizen will allow for large-scale battles, we also want to provide challenging instanced
Yeah,
content.
they've given
that
up
will take
on
full
not doing
advantage of not
instance
only multi-crew
content,
ships, but fleets
which
of
is
ships.
fine as long as
And
it
you kinda
works.
know
It
how we
works,
do
and
that,
I want
right?
it
You
to
saw
work.
that yesterday.
Yeah.
And as you progress through the guilds,
Like,
you'll be able
you
to
won't
accept high-level
trip
contracts
across
from government
these giant
agencies
space battles
who will
like
offer
they'd like,
prototype and military
but
blueprints as rewards.
Also, giant space battles kind
These
of need to be
missions will
planned
require
out.
the full coordination of
Yeah.
multiple players.
Because, I
and an
mean, they're going to
assorted
be
fleet of
pricey for
capital,
anybody,
support,
whether it be...
and fighter ships.
What's that one game
You will
that's, like,
finally be able to
massively
become leader of
big?
the fleet,
Yeah.
directing your
Like, I don't want it to get to
your
Eve,
hologlobe, which,
because...
yes, is a feature included in
Like, the
Jokewild.
scale of people and the gameplay would be great, but... Eve runs on... real money.
We will also be
No,
offering
no,
more
it doesn't
specialized on-foot
really.
missions that
I
see
mean,
you enter
not,
the
like,
depths
completely
of
run on
distribution
it, like, that's
centers
not
and
what I mean,
stories
but...
you can
in
translate
Yeah.
small,
them.
tight-knit squads
And
that
the amount of
provide
money that
help
people
from
have
the
actually
FPS
spent,
focus
real
players.
money-wise, on that game.
On top of all this will sit a dynamic layer powered by StarSim. While StarSim will be the driving force in our dynamic economy, it will also
We want to
track
see more
player
of Star
and AI
Sim. They have
activity
not. They've just
and
sort of thrown the
dynamically
name
spawn
out there.
events
We've
based on
seen
their actions.
Quanta, which is
For
what
example,
it used
if
to
it
be
tracks
called,
large
Quantum.
amounts of resources
Mm-hmm.
being moved from one
but
home location to another,
They've changed it
it
to
will have a
Star Sim, and
chance
we
to
haven't
spawn
seen what
pirates
the
to
update
intercept.
is.
All this combined will provide just a portion of the end game experience. And I'd love to delve deeper, but that's for another day as we still have a lot to show. So we've discussed non-combat professions and guilds.
So they brought up Star Sim, and then they're like, we'll talk about that later.
PvE content. But what about PvP? What about player versus player
I thought you were going to hear it all.
As you know, 1.0 will contain 5 star systems. 3 of these being lawful in Stanton, Castra, and Terra, and 2 of them being unlawful in Pyro and Nyx. So what's the difference?
And Pyro's 3 times bigger than Stanton.
Lawful systems
and
will be a mixture of
takes
high,
like 12
medium,
minutes to
and
fly
low
across
security areas.
if you have like
each of these
a
areas will be monitored by law enforcement agencies.
quantum drive.
And depending on the location, will dictate the emergency response time, with high-sec areas being the fastest. Initially, this response will be measured, but over time will escalate to overwhelming force. This means if someone is attacked, if they can just hold out for a short duration, help will be on the way. Pirates will be able to disrupt this monitoring by shutting down the nearby comm arrays, but this will be highlighted in your star map, with dynamic missions being generated to bring it back online. But
which would be nice, like if you're doing something, you know, of importance and you want to try to avoid it,
but
you know.
Before we jump into an unlawful system, let's explore what options.
That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to avoid it, but
okay. So first up, let's discuss
you can try to.
All ships and high-value items that you own will automatically be assigned to you. This means if someone steals your ship, you can mark it as stolen, either via an insurance claim or in your loan. This will then trigger a dead man switch on the stolen ship, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. But what options does this leave as a pirate? Well, you can still salvage it. You can tow it back to your fabrication hangar to dismantle it for resources. Or, if you have a high enough rep with the council,
that answered the question I had.
You can get the dead
the dismantling it for resources is
and pay
big.
for a new
I like
title
that.
deed
Yeah.
to become its new
I
owner.
like the fact that they added into that also that if you're high enough, you could just, you know,
become the new
keep
owner.
the ship.
Also,
Yeah.
if you're in a lawful system, you'll need to find a transient jump tunnel, as all major locations and POIs will have custom security that will scan you on arrival.
That's the jump gates
Okay,
that
so
everybody
with that out
uses.
the way, let's look at the unlawful system in Pyro. Unlawful systems have
This
no
gets
laws
weirdly
at all,
complicated.
and with that comes opportunity. Pyro, as an example, has an abundance of high-quality resources and is a hotbed of criminal activity.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Usually those, you know,
of high risk,
the high risk, high reward areas.
Right, but here
with
comes the
crafting now
complication.
requiring resources,
He
you're
starts
going
with
to
a
want to
history
create
lesson.
bases to mine and extract them. This is where base raiding will become a new form of PvP, and it's founded on a combined arms ethos. Defending players will be able to add defenses such as walls, automated turrets, and most importantly, ground shields, a localized version of the planetary shields used in lawful systems that absorb the most powerful of weaponry. No longer can you just turn up and drop a Moab.
Which is nice, not, you know, instant death to your base.
Yep. They're still useful because if you're able to get in and drop the shield, you can then drop Moabs and just raise the place.
Is that
Oh, well,
these
yeah.
shields can be
But you have
disabled.
the ability
You'll
to
have
try and,
strategically
you know,
assess each
protect
base
it.
and punch your way through its defenses on foot to eventually bring down the shield generator. Once the shield is down, then you have options. You want to raise it to the ground, you can bomb it from the air. If you want to extract all the resources, though, you'll need to infiltrate the base using explosive charges and hacking while fighting off the defenders. Now, both piracy and base raiding is founded on sandbox gameplay. And again, that's the essence of Star Citizen. But we want to add more. Something where you can log on and immediately find the action and fight for a purpose. So first up, let's go on a history lesson. In the early 2600s, there was a fledgling corporation called SEAL that had developed a new system-wide planetary shield technology, the same technology that will provide protection for your bases today. To prove this tech, they wanted to use Nix and Pyro systems as a testbed. With the promise of high-quality resources, Seal lured independent miners to man the SHIELD network in exchange for SHIELD protection for their settlements.
Can you say something real quick?
As a prototype,
What's up?
Seal couldn't provide total coverage over all the mining settlements, and so they created the Seal Tokens program, allowing the most industrious factions to purchase SHIELD coverage for their work. The network consisted of multiple linked bases on the ground that then linked to several stations in orbit around each planet that then connected to the nearest relay in the SHIELD network, which eventually linked back to the SHIELD core, which oversaw system-wide distribution of the SHIELD technology. Factions could then earn SEAL tokens for working on any part of the network. They could then use these tokens to buy SHIELD coverage, but with the competition amongst factions being so intense, Seal was only able to offer shielding to the hardest workers. Unfortunately, due to outlaw interference, Seal eventually pulled out of Pyro and Nix and pushed for a more automated solution in more civilized systems. So fast forward to present day, without Seal's backing, they had to pull out and leave it as it is. And welcome to Station Warfare.
Very confused applause.
Yeah, it was.
Are you following it?
With the SEAL network still in place, but lacking resources, orgs can take ownership of these structures to gain access to planetary SHIELD tech, which, as you know, would make their bases invulnerable.
Now, there is also another wrinkle that they don't talk about here.
There isn't enough to go around. And as in the good old SEAL
and that
days,
is
the
that
system still works
Pyro,
via
the
SEAL
star,
token program.
is unstable,
To
and
earn
if
tokens,
it flares
you'll have to
up,
assault
if
a
you're
location
out
and
of
then
a
deposit
shield,
resources to power the
you
network.
burn.
This begins with ground
So I'm
bases
curious
and
if,
ends at the SHIELD
like,
core.
these shields are better
Each
than the
structure
standard
occupied will
shields
then accrue SEAL tokens
to protect you
over
against
time,
that burn.
with larger structures earning more, and at the end of each week, you must then use these tokens to purchase SHIELD protection. With SHIELD coverage being limited, though, the system automatically selects the orgs with the highest bid from across all shards. Meaning for that week only, a certain number of orgs will gain access to SHIELD protection. So this is a chance for your org to become the de facto leader of a system.
So basically, your place is invulnerable for a
find the
week.
action and
Like
fight for your org.
you can't break in and drop their shield.
And finally,
apparently,
it's not just sandbox PvP or ganking. You are fighting for a purpose. So once you've won your bid, what then? Well, to talk more about that, I'd like to welcome Ian Leyland, Star Citizen's creative director, to the stage.
And now we move on to the big section.
Good luck.
Thank you. All right, hello, CitizenCon. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Dave. So, to continue the conversation of large-scale endgame org activities, let's go back to Pyro 3, where the ground bases were being built earlier today. This morning, we saw the small habitat being built by Luke. And then we saw Deck start to expand the base into a commercial enterprise. But eventually, we saw a massive example of an org base.
Basically,
But
orgs can
with
build entire
everything
cities.
Rich was talking about with org system-wide activities.
That would be cool.
We want to give you guys the ultimate end goal, but also the thing we need to protect. And to do that, let's look up into the sky and see what it is.
like the new quantum effect is really cool.
Yeah,
But they used to have different effects for each different manufacturer, and I'm curious if that's still going to be the case, or if they're like, no, we're just going to do one really cool one and that's it. Oh, earlier they said that if you purchase a ship in the store for real money, you have a permanent warranty on that ship. I may have talked over that.
Yeah, I think I heard that part. And, you know, that goes back to we had definitely talked about some of that stuff in detail.
Mm-hmm. I like that observation window deck thing. One thing that's nice too is you can join up to 6 orgs. So you can have your small fun org that you're playing around with, like the Justice Nerds. Mm-hmm. You can also have that org that has the really big space station you can take part in.
Let me introduce you to player space stations. Finally, you can build your home amongst the stars. This will be the starting point for your base of operations for system-wide org activities. But why is this an end goal? Well, first of all, to construct your own space station, it's going to require vast quantities of resources and materials. And also will be a large time investment. But how do we start? Well, it all starts with the supply bay. And the supply bay can only be constructed by the Pioneer.
So far. They love saying that and then making a new ship later on that's better, that does the same thing.
Once it's created, the supply bay then handles
But
the
I will say that
creation
the Pioneer,
of the station
this big
itself.
ship, they had to repurpose
Now,
it, and now
we're
it's
in
a
Grey
mobile
Box development
base
phase, so the
that
artwork's not
constructs
final,
stuff like this.
But let's go on a journey and start building our space base.
Now, did they say, or are they going to get into different types of space stations, like different variants?
No variants yet, but this is expandable to do things.
Okay, because I didn't know if they had said that, you know, some of like the shipbuilding type stuff would also be going into like the stations, where you could kind of customize it to make it, you know, unique to how you want it to look, and not just be a generic space station.
That might be coming up. One of the things I do like, org-wise, okay, so this is the thing that builds that station, okay? And what they show here in just a sec is just org member after org member after org member coming up and just supplying it. So like those are cargo boxes full of supplies, and people are just plugging it in.
Yeah, I like how it's snapping into it.
Yeah, that's the cargo grid, and yeah, they do snap like that. Although I love that mech up there is doing it wrong. Like, that's not how they work. Like, what they do is they pull whatever it is to them, and then they point it where they want it to go, and it just goes to there. They don't do it like you're seeing there, where they're moving it across. So yeah, so here's that's a hull C, I believe. It holds a shit ton of cargo.
I like how
on the outside.
Yeah, I like how it transforms to hold the cargo, like it expands.
Yep. So yeah, this is just a bunch of people in their own ships pulling up and Those last 2 ships were my favorites. I own both of them, but one of them I can't fly until a month from now.
Awesome. Awesome. So as you saw, the cargo grid of the supply bay consumes resources, and the required resources will be substantial and will need to be topped up over time. So this means orgs will be encouraged to have efficient logistic networks to feed the supply bay. And as Rich outlined with professions, it's ideal if your org is well-rounded in terms of roles. Even the starter player can contribute.
That's a nice thing,
the supply
too.
bay
The starter
has
player.
automated construction.
Yeah, they're not feeling
which
left
are used to
out,
create the station.
feeling like they don't,
And
you know,
unlike
can't
ground
do
bases,
anything or
many
be of
drones
any
are used at
use.
once to create the base. Once the station is built, the supply bay then integrates into the station itself. So here we are. We've built our core station module, and it's big. And out of the box, the station comes readily built with some core functionality. Let me talk you through it. Right on the top is the bridge, which is the command deck. This is where all further construction is going to be managed. From here, we can then monitor the status of the entire station. We have access to power and water management. Power and cooling is something you'll need to consider carefully. It also is an area to set permissions for who can enter particular
The whole water
areas,
thing is interesting because
either
we can't
divided
harvest
by
water
the
right
ranks
now.
of the org itself or open to the
So
public.
that means water is going to become
And there'll be
a
a radar
resource we
station
have to gather.
track the activity outside the base. And the terminals to access logs of who has visited the
I
station.
hope we don't have to fill up the
and
water
see what they
using
did.
the little
So
bottles
let's
we
jump
have
back
now in the game.
and take a stroll through our bridge.
Have star tanker ships.
Yeah. So that's a Freelancer Max. That's the ship. That's my current, like, everyday flyer kind of thing. It's a medium cargo ship. I'll say medium small, or small medium, because it holds like 110 cargo, but one of the rooms is really hard to get to, so it's kind of annoying. I like how that one already has the crow's nest on it, the holograph there. They haven't shown the crow's nest. All the way through that, I've rewatched a bunch of this. All the way through it, they have Easter eggs to say what's coming up. Like, for instance, the stuff we watched earlier where they were showing all of the different professions, they had Space Station Builder on it, which they hadn't actually announced that we could do space stations yet. So just little things that when you're rewatching it, oh, they said it right there. Apparently it has a transit system.
I mean, with how big it looked, I mean, it would be useful to have some sort of little transit system around.
The back of the bridge leads to a centralized transit network. This spine physically connects the entire station and will provide access to the
Seems
various
like a weak
decks.
point to me.
Each level in the station
Yeah, and the
will
fact
have a
that
centralized
core
lobby
is
area.
smack dab
And
right
this
in the
is
top
your
middle.
station. You'll be able to use the decorator mode, so you'll have plenty of space to theme it however you want. And speaking of having plenty of space, this space station will have a one-to-one interior layout matching the exterior. No magic elevators.
Which are in all the
Jesus,
other stations. The magic
A one-to-one
So
scale
you can
is
circumnavigate
gonna
around the
be
entire perimeter.
feeling
And it's
massive
wonderful.
in person,
Okay,
like
let's
when
jump
you're
in.
actually playing.
And they're planning on skills that is like GTA kind of skills, where if you do a lot of running, your character will become better at running and be more fit. But if you there's actually gyms in the game that don't work yet, but this is what I was saying earlier about the observation deck looking really cool.
That does look nice.
Yeah, this is a screenshot generator for sure. The whole game is.
Oh yeah.
That ship in the background on the bottom is one of the biggest ships in the game.
Right.
It's bigger than the Enterprise A, but shorter than the Enterprise D.
As you can see, right at the bottom of the central transit system leads to the lower areas. This is where you'll gain access to the engineering deck. So like bigger ships, this is where all the hands-on engineering and maintenance gameplay happens. This will serve as the beating heart of your station. Then we have the hangar deck. And as the name implies, this is where you'll gain access to your hangar network. The base station comes with a large hangar already built, along with 2 docking collars, and also empty slots for another 2 medium hangars when needed. There will be a vast network of internal road systems, meaning you can quickly drive from one hangar to the other. No elevators needed. Okay, let's check back in.
That's the ship I just bought. I like the Argo cargo there. That's that's to like move cargo around.
I mean, I like how it's, you know, an actual interior hangar on the station instead of just a, you know, outdoor docking or, you know, an outdoor platform to land on.
Well, they do both, actually.
Yeah, and I saw that, but I'm just liking how they actually have physical hangars inside the station.
And that's a large hangar. They have extra large hangars too.
All right, so your station hangar will offer some enhanced logistics. For example, there'll be spaces for several freight elevators. And there'll be empty modules for open ship parking for vehicles and vehicles and ground vehicles. And there'll be also exit points where you can simply drive out into your station.
Yeah, you can drive around the station. It's so cool.
Then there'll be also an upper level for the observation deck. From the observation deck,
what's
you'll
funny
have a
is
control
that this
room.
is a return
And from here,
to
you'll have master
the observation deck, because
over
it
the
used
freight
to be
elevators and the
there
vehicle
was no
elevators.
PU, there was no place you could go in
This
and look.
means that
The
even
only
before someone has
playable
landed,
Star Citizen
the new
was a
cargo
hangar
can
that
be
you
up
could
into
bring
the
your
hangar
ships into and look
ready
at,
to be loaded up.
and it had an observation lounge
Now,
above it.
Everything we've spoken about so far is
I
what
say you weren't
comes
actually physically
with
in the same
station.
hangar and being
Let's
able
talk
to go
about-
around
No,
your
you
ship.
were.
do
You could walk around
to
the ship, you
expand
could
it.
go in the ship, but there was also an observation lounge where you could go above the ship
As I
and look
mentioned
down at it
before,
and go,
the station
"Ooh."
comes
okay.
with a predetermined interior network of corridors and roads. And in this network, you'll
Ooh,
find
that's
an array
intricate.
of bulkhead connectors. Bulkhead connectors will come in tiers 1 to 3, which drives the size of room you're able to build. In the interior build mode, this is where you start to expand the interior of your station. The rooms will require resource and time to construct, and once built, you can rename each room, which will be reflected in the station's minimap. The interior of your station will have ample areas for you to expand. You can build generic empty rooms, and you can fill with items to your heart's content.
Junk
You can
drawers.
also build special
Pretty much.
rooms where the theme and functionality is already set for you. such as mess halls or infirmaries or generator rooms. And of course, there are shops. So similar to the small shops we built around the ground base, this is on a much bigger scale. But that's just the
And by the way,
interior.
those shops allow people who are not in your org to come
Let's talk
in
about the exterior.
and purchase stuff from it. You
And
could
spend
actually
money.
have
On the
just
exterior,
a shop,
we have
like become an
hard
org
points.
that makes
These are
stuff and
attachment
builds stuff
points
and sells it to everybody in the
located
game.
on the upper and lower surfaces of the station. Using build mode, you can customize your station with a variety of modules, which tailor it to specific
I think that's a
functionality.
person standing on that.
Some modules cater towards resource collection, such as gas harvesters, while others are geared towards defense, like shields or turrets. This goes back
Man, I hope
to
they have
bridge
manned
operations
turrets in this,
of
or not
power
manned, but at
management.
least
A
those controlled by
situation
players.
may
I don't want
arise
AI
where
controlled
power
turrets.
priority.
No.
I'd
Then we
like them
have
to be able to be
major
AI
hard
controlled,
points.
but man,
The core station module comes with
Yeah,
two
like if you're
hard
needing
point
to
connectors.
specifically target something, you don't want it to
Major
be
hard
AI
points are used
because
to connect
never works out,
substantial
right?
wing additions to your station. The first example
that's a cargo module.
Awesome, thank you. Awesome. The first example is the cargo wing.
So much cargo on that thing.
The cargo wing will dramatically increase your inventory capacity. So this is ideal for orgs who are specializing in holding. Then we have the refinery wing.
That's pretty cool.
So you'll be able to refine resources on a vast scale. As it's in space, it's much more convenient than traveling to a ground base. Now, a player could buy resources from your cargo wing and then refine it directly in the refinery wing. And finally, we have the hangar wing. So, all right. So, the bigger your fleet, the more hangars you'll want. There'll be a variety of hangar sizes as well as docking collars to help organize your fleet's deployment. All major hardpoint wings are connected via struts. And like the rest
Those
of
little
the
vehicles
station,
you can
the
drive.
struts are also
That's like the first
internally
vehicle you could
traversable.
drive in the game, by the way. Fly or drive, because it was in the
Okay,
hangar module.
So let's
you could
recap
drive it around your
on the
hangar.
exterior expansion wings. Minor hardpoints give us options on how to collect resources or provide automated defenses for your base. Major hardpoints gives us options on how you can specialize your base. Let's jump back in game and see how our base is getting on.
I gotta see what they mean by gray box. Because everyone was talking about how this looks practically done. What do you mean gray box? But I think that's mainly, like, gray box is kind of the getting all the colors where they want them and stuff like that, but functionality has not quite gotten to it yet. Like, functionality's kind of the last thing they add. Even though they know what it's going to be, they haven't programmed it in yet. They
Yeah.
want to make sure it looks really good and looks correct before they start programming it in. That's a Zeus, I think? Did they tell us what that hangar was that they just put over there? Does that look weird? That doesn't look like one they showed us.
I mean, the only
This is
three
a
that
hangar.
I saw, yeah, the only three that I saw was the hangar ones, the refinery, and the
cargo.
cargo.
Oh, this is a different hangar one. because it has the extra large hangar, because that's what a hammerhead needs to land in. That's a big damn hangar.
Yeah, it is. It's to have the size of the station.
Yep.
Yes, Pedro has been working with us on this as well, so thank you. Looking cool. Customization is just as important as expansion. Similar to ground bases, you'll be able to earn tints for your station, and you'll be able to apply decals for your org logos.
Decals was the name of the game this whole entire CitizenCon. Everything is going to have decals now.
Outside of minor and major hardpoints, your station will come with 2 unique base expansion points. One on the top side behind the bridge, and one on the underside. The top side will be for the crow's nest. Now, all the other modules built so far have very specific functionality, but I'll admit, this is for the org members out there who want the ultimate in personal space.
Like they're selling a car. There's the Star Lancer again. There's a Hammerhead again. The Star Lancer was the one that they sold starting 3 days ago. The Crow's Nest, also known as a weak point.
Right.
But it's a really good view.
I mean, it did look hella cool.
So the ISCs, which is the Inside Star Citizens that happen on Thursdays, are going to be interesting, I feel, over the next year. Hopefully they'll give us more timelines.
All right. So I'm going to be flying around the verse, and I want personal invitations to see what you've done in those rooms, okay? Super cool. I can't wait to see what you do with it. Now let's talk about the underside. This is going to be for the flight deck, which also comes with an additional 3 major hardpoints.
It's perfect.
The flight deck is perfect for your rapid reaction forces. It's ideal for fighters, but big enough to fit most ships. It's the perfect home for your station's defensive air wing. And just like the hangars, there'll be an observation deck which can override freight elevators, making rearming quicker and easier during operations. So an org with a tight flight deck crew can be substantially more efficient than others. Now, this one's my favorite. Let's take a look.
He said there were Easter eggs in this, but unless it's the arrows that kind of we already have seen, like that ship there, I'm not sure what the Easter eggs were. I'm gonna have to watch a video where they know what the Easter eggs are. It could be the military arrow or something like that from Squadron 42. Or it's the armor. I don't know. The other thing I like about this game is everything you see there, if you were to kill them, you could loot it. The ships, the mech, the armor, the underwear, all of it, you can totally take.
Everything's up for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's one thing I hate about games that you see them shooting something, you go, oh, I want that gun, and then you loot them and there's nothing there.
Yeah, nothing.
And you can see
There's
it
a
on
few
them.
little Easter eggs in that video. But why do you need a flight deck for your rapid defenses force? Well, if you've built your super awesome station in a super lawless system, now you're the potential targets for others. Everyone will have their eyes on your resources and wonder what gear you've got in your inventories.
I wonder what the bottom fin is for.
And let's say we didn't win the station warfare bid that Rich mentioned.
Oh.
Let's take
I
a
wonder
look
if it's to let
the
people
inevitable.
know from a distance that there's a hangar on it. Because it comes off the bottom of the hangar.
Yeah.
That looks so cool.
I like the last ship that popped in. It gives very like stealth fighter jet feels
It
to
is
it.
supposed to be that exact thing. It is made so that it doesn't, one of the radar types or one of the scanning types, it's got a really low version, like a low profile or something along those lines. And that's a Buccaneer. They're on my bucking head. God, that ship is so much fun to be on. Okay, so that prowler, or that ship that would drop these guys off, is literally a drop ship that apparently served its purpose.
Yeah, it did. Well, that was rude.
It's funny, on the original video, like 5 seconds before this, I was like, man, I want internal guns. And then that happened, and Mark was like, holy crap.
You were asking, you shall receive.
I wasted so many wishes watching Star Citizen, or CitizenCon.
Okay, so not only is your station a staging area for offensive campaigns, it's also a defensive fortress. The exterior of the station itself can take quite a beating. It's going to be very hard to damage. So the goal of
Notice it said very hard to damage, not even destroy, just it's going to be very hard to damage.
And get inside. The optimal way to do
I wonder
this
if
will be to
eventually you can
infiltrate
cut off the
through
arms
flight
or something
deck
like that
or
and
EVA hatches
still
and
leave
work
them
your way
with
up.
some rebuilding they have to do, but not
Once
necessarily get to
inside-
the core.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, there's a tank inside.
Yes. Once inside, and you've cleared out a hangar, you may also want to consider airlifting in a tank or two to clear some corridors. Raiders will have to hack freight elevators or bulkheads in order to gain access. And of course, bring enough ships with them to start hauling out the loot. Gaining control of the bridge will allow
Yeah, that was a
access to
huge
storage,
loop that they
which
just
would
described
otherwise
kind of
be
offhandedly.
unhackable. So, as a defender, there are a variety of automated defenses you're able to install internally within the station, such as blast doors, which seal shut, systems to be breached, and a range of turrets like anti-vehicle.
Because
or
this is also where
anti-personnel.
people will spawn,
These will all
so
help
it'll be
slow
really
down the
tough
attack
to keep something
and
like
give
this,
time
I'm
for your
assuming.
reinforcements to show up.
Because enemies can't spawn
So
here.
let's do a final
Unless
recap.
they have, like...
Yeah, so you're
This
gonna have
is
to come
one
in
of the
pretty prepared.
end-game
Yeah.
goals for dedicated orgs, and will be your base of operations for system-wide activities. The station can be customized both in the interior and the exterior, meaning you can tailor it to your own requirements. And it's your very own home amongst the stars. But wait.
So one other crazy thing, they made an
wait.
announcement that there are 70,000
There's one
orgs
more unique
registered
module
in Star
we
Citizen.
can build,
Jesus.
and that is the dry dock.
There's only 5 systems. Where are we going to put all these? Now, I know 70,000 isn't going to... There's not going to be 70,000 stations. But...
This unique slot will be at the back of the station.
But one of them, one of the orgs, has over 50,000 members.
Observation room with crafting stations, and has a transit tram which runs along the inside of the arms, leading to the docking collars where your ship
and it's a PvP org, so everyone's going, well, shit.
The only question still
like
remains,
they've already won
what size
without anybody doing anything.
Can we build?
Because everyone's like, well, crap. This reveal may not mean anything to you.
I mean, I would eventually like to get into it. You know, obviously we've talked about it.
Do you want, if you want to do this, where anytime there's a video that they do, we can do this. Like, we've got a bunch of them for just CitizenCon, but whenever they start up ISC again, this would be fun to do every week.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine with me.
Okay, so...
That was cool being able to construct your ship there, too.
Yep, but that is the biggest ship in the game. Yes. That they said wasn't going to be player-owned. But now, well, the thing is, I guess technically it's, technically, which is the best kind of correct, orgs can own it. But yeah, it's a carrier.
I think it's massive.
It's called a Bengal carrier, and yes, it is massive. But also, look at what they're, like, slow revealing.
Yeah, I like how they have, because that was one of the things I was going to mention, was being able to see what almost, or a fully constructed station would look like, and the fact that you can expand on that.
And do more cores.
Yeah, like, you could essentially build a whole entire network, and if you have, it's like if you have groups of people that are working together, but separate at the same time, you know, you could attach your all self to each other and make like a community up there.
Yeah, I'm curious if multiple orgs can build a single base.
Multiple stations linking and dry docks to craft your very own capital ships. The ultimate end goal for any org. Okay, so let's take a step back. At the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned we had 3 types of players and 1 universe. And hopefully you can see we have purposeful gameplay catering to each type of player. But that wasn't the only goal. It was to build a game that connected all 3 together cohesively. And this is where you come in. The community, the lifeblood of Star Citizen. Whether you're a PvE player delving for unique crafting blueprints, a non-combat player mining for high-quality resources or building a base with your friends, or a PvP player fighting for your org in station warfare to protect your base, each one of you supports each other. You need the blueprints to craft, you need the resources to make them, and you need the equipment and protection to be safe. This is what Star Citizen is. It's a universe that caters to all players. Now, I could probably go on for another 10 hours deep diving into each system. But I do Jared out of a job, and he needs future ISCs and SC Lives and CitizenCons. Today was to reaffirm what type of game we are making. And I hope you continue to come with us on this journey as we march towards Star Citizen 1.0.
Okay, so what's your thoughts?
I mean, if I'm going to start from the most recent thing that's on my mind, it would definitely have to be about the stations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'd like the stations. I like how obviously, you know how big they are. At the end, they're showing that you can make more than one and connect them together to expand on what you have.
Right.
Because that's going to be useful depending on the size of the group of people that you're playing with. Because at the beginning of it, they said, yeah, you're going to have one at least when you first build it, without building a wing offshoot.
You're gonna have one core.
Yeah, you're gonna have one core. You're gonna have one medium or large hangar, and you'll have 2 medium hangars. Like, that's not going to be conducive to a large group of people. So the fact that you can expand on that is great.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing that I would like to see,
I would also say, though, generally speaking, there shouldn't have to be a whole ton of people at the base. You hope that most of the time they're away from the base. They only show up to drop stuff off and maybe repair or something like that. But if you're going to be a commerce base, then you definitely need places for people to land that aren't part of your base.
And see, that would be one thing, like, at the end when they were showing, like, you know, the 3 different types of players, whatever, I would definitely fall under the category of non-combat and PvP. Like, those are the types of things that I like doing in those large-scale games like that.
PvP
like,
or
I like
PvE?
being able, not PvE. Like, I would do the occasional PvE, but
what are you picturing as PvE? In what you've seen.
Obviously some of the I don't know. Did they specify if it was going to be strictly no? Because they did say that could it be attacked, but did they specify?
It is open PvP. Like, the whole game is open PvP.
Well,
now,
yeah.
Now, there was some talk of a PvP PvE slider way back. It was sort of an offhand comment that Chris Roberts mentioned, that everybody was like, that's fiction. That can't happen. But with the server meshing that they're doing and the fact that you're going to be moving from server to server, if they wanted to say, like, if they wanted to add that for people to put in a PvE PvP slider, and then if you're like all PvE, then they would put you into a server that generally had PvE people in it. It would still be open PvP, but the population wouldn't necessarily be PvP. And then you would have somebody that maybe they decided to be a mole. They slid their stuff to PvE, and then they got into a PvE server, and they shot some people unprovoked. They would be forced to be PvP for a certain amount of time, and then they would be thrown into PvE servers through server meshing. So there is a way for that slider to happen, but I don't know if it's going to be. But PvE for this is like bug hunting, clearing out NPC bunkers, and basically doing jobs for the guilds that are that basically you're going against NPCs, which if the server's running right, they are sometimes deadlier than PCs. But the PvP stuff would be what you saw. They're trying to give the PvP players stuff to do, so they don't necessarily grief PvEers or non-combaters.
Yeah. I think if it's playing against, you know, the computer or whatever, I'd be fine with the open for it all the way. But when it comes to playing against other people or fighting against other people, I have my games that I like doing that in. But when it comes to like the large scale games like Star Citizen, I can tell you now, I would be more focused on the mining and the traveling, and not having to worry so much about, hey, as soon as I jump here, I'm going to be attacked by another person.
Right. And
which, I mean, it still could happen, yes.
Yeah, but like, okay, some things, like if you're non-combat, that usually means mining or something like that. If you go into a cave, and you're doing mining in the cave, there can be like enemies hiding out in the cave, or creatures in the cave and stuff like that. So that's what PvE is in the game generally. Or you can do bounties. You can be a bounty hunter that it is pretty obvious if you're picking a player bounty versus picking an NPC bounty.
Yeah.
And those are pretty fun. Right now they're just shoot to kill, but eventually it's like bring them back alive is what they're planning. And that becomes a more interesting version of PvE to me. The PvP part of that I don't get. I'm not understanding the PvP, except that they mentioned multiple characters. Like we don't have multiple characters yet. And the whole crowd was like, "What?" Because up until now we've only had one character. So if they were to do a bounty where you did something bad and there's a bounty on you and then they come and capture you, it might be, if they let us have multiple characters, that character just goes, you just lose access to them for a little while, unless a friend goes and rescues them, which technically you could log into an alt character and try to rescue your main character from a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Which, that's crazy. That is some interesting content in my book.
Yeah. Now, I can say, again, back to the stations, I would eventually like to see, obviously I'd mentioned differences in stations, like not just a generic station. Everybody's got the same station, it all looks the same. Yes, you can expand on it, but they all have the same station.
Well,
like,
okay,
yeah,
so
you can paint it a different color.
Let me counterpoint that. All of the other stations in the game look really cool and unique. It might be necessary to have all the player stations look the same so you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. Or
like
if you can't
have
do
a similar look.
Yeah. If you can't do obviously full customization of a ship or a station,
right,
to tailor how they want it to look, I wouldn't mind seeing smaller stations.
I'm looking forward to a Dick and Balls station. I'm just saying that now. I'm looking forward. And now, okay, so the other thing is that in this particular case, this is end game content.
Oh, yeah.
Something that's going to be, I think, more up your alley is when we get to the crafting and base building version of this, which we can watch in the next couple nights. Where that is something that you and I have done in multiple games already.
Yeah.
Where it is, it looks like freaking, what was that? Starfield? No, not Starfield. No Man's Sky. You know, basically you can plop a base down anywhere and start building other buildings and stuff like that. It is that. And you can go from as small as just, I like this spot, so I'm going to build a home here and not do anything else if you don't want to. You just are like, I like this view, so I'm going to claim this bit of land on top of this cliff that looks out over this lake, or on top of this mountain that looks out over this valley that has clouds in it all the time. Oh, speaking of clouds, man, they introduced weather.
Yeah, they did. The clouds on the planet when they were up in the station, those look fantastic.
Then that is the static clouds. In one of the panels we'll be watching later, they actually introduced the fact that they are now introducing weather with the new planet tech that they have. They're introducing weather, so the clouds are going to form and dissipate in a realistic pattern. Because right now they're just really cool looking clouds. They look amazing. But they are static. Good. So they are put in a place and then they just stay there forever. You don't notice it because the whole planet is huge. So you're very rarely coming into the same group of clouds. But yeah, they introduced that it's going to be weather patterns to the point that they actually had a storm that was dangerous to fly your ship through at the end of it. And they said there's going to be some places in the verse that will just have permanent storms. So you'll have to find a clear area to land, and maybe the place you need to get to, you have to drive there with a ground vehicle, because otherwise your ship would just get lightninged out of the sky.
Yeah.
So, see, what else did they cover in this? Because, yeah, you're right. All the station stuff. First off, the station stuff took over.
I did. I did.
Yeah, the main story sounded interesting. That concept, and
Yeah.
then the smaller stories in various other areas, because that's what I want the MMO for. I want the
Yeah,
MMO.
and I did like how they specified, like, if you wanted the cinematic story, it's still Squadron, but they're still gonna have a story
Mm-hmm.
in Star Citizen.
Yeah, they've had physical mission givers in the past, but they weren't ready for them in the game, and they just kept bugging out and doing stuff. So they really didn't have a good mission system to support them. So it was kind of like, nobody ever visited them, and they just ended up taking them out eventually. But they're apparently reintroducing them. The Mobi-Glass is neat. I know you haven't seen a lot of that, but they recently updated that whole system so they can add multiple apps to it now without having to redo the whole Mobi-Glass. So now each app that's added to it is basically like an app they've added on a phone, and they could just keep adding them. So
Nice.
You'll see more of those in future ones. You think of anything else on this?
All of the, I mean, well, in the beginning, it definitely, all the different jobs and.
You had a
like
question
that
about
they
the
were talking
guild
about.
stuff. You were hoping it wasn't like Destiny.
Oh, so where it becomes like you have to participate as a group.
Okay, so I'll spoil part of it. So what happens is you are a person,
Mhm.
and you can join an org, or you don't join an org. When you do jobs for any of the the couriers. Actually, let me go back. Maybe I can find a good. Let's see. Oh.
Outside of the main story.
Okay. So the United Resource Workers has Shubin Interstellar, Adagio Holdings, United Warfare. Okay, so each one of those are corporations that provide all of the missions in the game. And if you do one of the missions, you gain reputation with that particular United Wayfarers Club. Like if you do a hull repair for the United Wayfarers Club, then you get reputation with them. But you also get reputation with United Resource Workers because this company is part of this guild. So as you earn reputation, you get better contracts. You get maybe you get repaired stuff for cheaper and stuff like that. So that's how the reputation's working in the game, or what they're planning the reputation with this guild system is. Then there's orgs. The orgs can align with a guild. And then everything, if you're part of that org and you do missions for that thing, your org earns reputation with that guild as well as you do. Plus you earn reputation with your org, which gives you better benefits as well. So it's all reputation based in that particular case. It's not like you have to go out and do things with somebody. It's anything you do adds to that.
Right. Yeah, because me, I like being able to go into it, and because it happened with Grounded. Like I go into it and I get caught up in doing things.
Oh, I know. But that's the thing, is that technically you're able to go ape shit on this stuff, and it isn't going to affect somebody else's gameplay.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, it is literally like you're just trying to, and there are so many levels of reputation, it's insane. Now, if you're doing mercenaries versus the council, then you're looking at everything you do for one of them is going to cause you to lose reputation with the other. Because you're generally going to be doing missions that are against the other one. To the point, what their goal eventually is to have the same mission be taken by opposite guilds or opposite orgs, to where it becomes a PvP fight. Like the protect the VIP or rescue the VIP. The Mercenaries Guild could give players a mission that says transfer this VIP from this planet to this planet because this is where they're going to be held in court and whatever. And then the council gives a mission to rescue that VIP, which will have players surrounding them. That's where the PvP stuff can be forced upon, you know what I mean, the players. Because you're in a PvP mission, or you're in a combat mission, so therefore it is possible that the opposing force will be players because they got the opposing mission. That's what that Star Sim is all about, is trying to make those type of missions almost like a director. I almost wish they wouldn't call it Star Sim. I wish they'd call it the director. But I think Halo got that, or somebody got that already. No, that was Left 4 Dead. Had the director was the controller of all the NPCs in that game, and and if you were doing bad, it would throw lower level stuff at you, and if you're doing really well, it would throw challenging stuff at you. And change the pathway through the maze and stuff like that. But
okay, well, I mean, that definitely clarifies that.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the thing, is you're able to go into this and just go mining to your heart's content. I personally like salvaging. Though I don't like doing salvaging missions. I like going out and finding my own salvage, because salvaging missions you have to pay for. And then what you end up salvaging, you make some of your money, you make your money back plus a little bit. And if you go out and find your own salvage, you just make all your money. It just takes time to find that salvage. So you're giving up time for extra money. But generally you make a lot more if you find your own salvage. Which with the Star Sim and all the stuff we're going to see later, where there's wreckage and stuff like that being spawned on a planet, you can salvage all of that stuff. And then persistence is also there. So if a player crashes their ship and dies and respawns and just gets their ship back through insurance right now, that ship is still there for you to salvage. With 1.0, what they're wanting, or even coming up with 4.0 and maybe one of the point patches past 4.0, if you find a derelict ship, you might be able to repair it, and then it becomes a salvaged ship. That I'm curious how that works in the 1.0 stuff.
Yeah, because I think the one thing that caught my interest when it came to the ships was definitely the large freighter ship that expanded.
Oh yeah, that was the Hull C. The Hull series all do that. Ooh, hold on.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I could see myself literally spending half of my time in that.
Quick, are you looking at my stream?
No, I had to put my phone on the charge.
Okay. So yeah, there's I'll post it I'll post it in Discord so you can see it. Put it in Star Citizen. I'll put it in the Star Citizen channel again. And then let me know when you're about to hit play. Did it post?
It probably did. I'd have to go and grab it in a second. It was on 2%.
Oh, okay. So that's fine. Then
I made it just through the video.
Nice. I will play it for the stream real quick, and then I guess that'll do it. Yeah, there's hull A, B, C, D, E, and the C's the middle one, and it holds more cargo than you can practically imagine, and there's still bigger versions. But cargo hauling is another like super chill sort of adventure that I like to do.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to be able to obviously, you know, get into it.
Yeah.
We talk about it, but being able to find the...
Well, it's a ways off.
Yeah, well, the space for a computer, too.
Yeah. That was a bad space to quantum into. Yeah, it's the ad for that ship that you were seeing that you like. It was in game, like it's the in-game ad, not an ad for you to go buy it on their site. It's like this is what they would show in the game.
Yeah, I'll check it out once my phone charges a little bit.
Well, cool, man. Well, I guess that'll do it.